So now let's say that our two lines that are being cut by our transversal are now parallel. Okay, we still have all of our 8 angles, so you should be able, based off the last video, to know which ones are corresponding, which ones are consecutive interior, which ones are alternate interior, which ones are alternate exterior. For example, 1 and 7, alternate exterior. 4 and 5, consecutive interior. 2 and 6 are corresponding, and 4 and 6 are alternate interior. Now, if these lines are parallel, and again, what I'm about to put down and what I'm about to say only works if the if the parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then all of this stuff is true. So the first one is alternate interior angles are congruent. So that would mean angle 4 is congruent to angle 6, and angle 3 is congruent to angle 5. Next, alternate exterior angles are congruent. So that means angle 1 is congruent to angle 7, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 8. Next one up. Corresponding angles, also congruent. You can see a theme here. So that means that we're going to have lots of these pairs. So 1's congruent to 5, 4 is congruent to 8, 2 is congruent to 6, and 3 is congruent to 7. So 3 out of the 4 of our pairs make congruent angles pairs if parallel lines are cut by a transversal. Now the next one, consecutive interior, if you notice, those two pairs would be angle 4 and 5 and 3 and 6. Just by how they look, we can tell they're not going to be congruent. Instead, this pair is supplementary. So consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So that would mean measure of 4 plus measure of 5 equals 180, and measure of 3 plus measure of 6 equals 180. Again, I'd probably at this point pause this to make sure you get all this information down. All right, so on the next slide we're going to do some examples. So just looking at these 3 examples here, all right, if we look at example on the top left, there's a couple ways they can do this. And what's nice about these types of problems is there's usually multiple ways they can be done. So I think, okay, maybe it's corresponding or vertical or consecutive interior. Each one can be looked at in maybe a different way based off of how you perceive it. So whatever you see first, even if there's multiple ways, however you see the first option to solve it, just go with that. So when I look at this first example here, I look at angle 1 and 56 and I think, okay, that's vertical angles. So I know angle 1 is equal to 56 degrees. Now the next thing you might notice is that angle 2 and 56 are corresponding. Well, if these lines are parallel and they're corresponding, I know that angle 2 also equals 56. Now you might not have seen it that way. Maybe you saw that angle 1 and angle 2 are alternate exterior, which again means they're congruent. So if 1 is 56 because it's vertical, then 1 would be congruent to 2, and 2 is 56 because they are alternate exterior. Again, multiple ways to see this problem, but again, we're ending up with the same answer. Same thing if we look at the next example right here. I noticed that jumps out at me, y is 110 because it's vertical. Okay, I know that x is 110 because we have parallel lines cut by a transversal, and x and 110 are corresponding. You also could have thought of it as y and x are alternate interior, which again is one of our pairs that's congruent if our lines are parallel. So again, guys, multiple ways to see these problems. However you see it, it's up to you. Now for the last one, this pair is not an angle pair that we use. So I have an interior angle and an exterior angle. That is not going to make any pair that we know of. However, I can move these measurements around. And the reason I can move them around is because, again, we have our parallel lines. Because if those lines are parallel, I have 4 pairs I can kind of work with. So option 1, I can say, well, if this angle is x minus 2, then this angle is x minus 2. That would then create a linear pair, which means they add to 180 because they're supplementary. Another option is I can think, well, if this is 105, then this angle right here is 105 because those are both alternate exterior. Again, supplementary. Another option, this angle is 105 because it's vertical. Then I have a consecutive interior angle pair, which again, I know that they're supplementary. So any way that I slice this or dice this, right, I know I should end up with the equation 105 plus x minus 2 equals 180, which way I would solve that out, I eventually find that x is 77, and that angle way over there is 75 degrees. Okay, so multiple ways to solve these depending on how you look at it. All right, I'm sorry this video's been kind of quick, but there's your homework. I'll see you guys tomorrow.